him this morning on summary meeting. Steve is there. He's still asking for our detailed reports on the progress of the radio project. I didn't get to talk to him before he walked up to the home party, so I don't think we're gonna be able to provide him what I think he's looking for at this point.
We're certainly getting the payment on.
Yeah.
So,
Like, we could probably give him a budget summary so far, but
I thought I was gonna get something from Mike Day
yeah.
to just, that spreadsheet that he's got.
Because we have to spend some money on civil,
Yes.
so. I know.
It's like, I'll have to be here all weekend. Today. What a thing.
I know.
So right now I got to get back to my agenda. Okay. All right. So we have a 17-point agenda. Was it properly posted? All right. And I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. All right, motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Dave, are you good to stay on for the whole meeting?
I am good till 10:30.
Okay. And now we have Bob Frank. So Bob just logged in. Amber, if you want to note that. All right. That brings us to item number 3, agenda from the September 1st, 2023 public safety meeting. Would entertain a motion. Motion by McKee, second by Morris. You guys are going to be doing that a lot, I think. All right, any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have, and it's approved. That brings us to item number 5, coroner updates. Do we have any coroner updates? I didn't see them in the.
I just gotta wait for technology to catch up with me.
That's all right. Should we come back to it?
I got it right here.
Okay.
All right, 15 calls in August, 6 heart-related deaths, 4 cancer, 1 murder, 1 suicide, 1 accident, 1 other health condition, and 1 pending toxicology. Oldest decedent was 94, youngest was 25. Let me know if there's any other specific information that you would like, and you'd be happy to share. And best wishes, Jim.
Is that our 3rd murder this year? Second? Wow. Okay. All right, so that brings us to item number 6, circuit court judge updates and comments.
Thank you. Good morning. We are continuing to do what we do. I think that for purposes of this committee, biggest concern is the whole issue of courthouse security and courtroom security and functionality. I feel like I am beating a dead horse and that I just continually come around and whine and nag. And I've only been doing it for a year, but I think I realize that this is what I have to do until there are enough people who are willing to carry the banner and are persuaded that our facilities are in dire need of updates or renovation to come into compliance with the law and with just common sense measures that nearly every other county in the state has made progress with in ways that we haven't. Those continue to be things as far as security personnel. So the Sheriff's Department has a limited budget and they struggle to find staff and to find the budgeting. But the county board needs to realize that that must include courtroom security to cover as many courtrooms as that we have running at one time. We have 2 courtrooms. That should mean 2 staff members, 1 in each courtroom. It is not really the sheriff's problem. That's the county board's problem because it's a budget issue. There's also a personnel issue. It's hard to find staff. I get that as well. So there's an interplay between those 2 things. But to have simply one sort of full-time court security officer is barely adequate. Because when we have a court security officer in the courtroom all day long, and we have inmates that must come up from the jail, when that court security officer is leaving the courtroom to go down to the jail to get that person, there is not an insignificant period of time that they are completely absent from the courtroom, and we don't have anybody watching the courtroom. There are other issues of just cameras and surveillance. I mean, I don't think surveillance is the right word, but having eyes on what's going on. Those issues are being addressed, but slowly. We need cameras in the lobby. We need cameras in the waiting areas. We need cameras in the courtroom. And then we need the ability for the courtroom security officer to be able to see everything that's going on in the hallways and in both courtrooms. It's a problem. I've had attorneys in the small courtroom who have expressed that they feel extremely unsafe in that space because it's a very small space and there is no outside cameras. And sometimes there's not a court security officer in there. And in that small space, we have inmates, we have people who are holding grudges, we have people who are at the beginning of a divorce, who are can be very volatile. It is a situation that continues to need to be addressed. I appreciate the efforts that have been done, that have been put forth and the interest, but I think that it's only just beginning. We need to really look at these things. We have public health issues in our courtrooms. We have a long-standing, ongoing problem with bats in this aging facility in this courtroom. It is not occasional. It is constant. And I have no doubt that there are bats flying around in our courtroom every single night. Why do I think that? Because every single day there is bat dung on the chairs. Don't tell me for 1 second that's not a public health issue. And to address that is going to be expensive. I get it. I really appreciate Randy. He is a genius and he has devised ways to deal with the bats when they fly around the courtroom during court, which also happens more frequently than anyone would like to admit. That means we have to stop court, stop what we're doing, delay everything that's happening. And hopefully, if we're lucky, Randy is around, he can come and pull out the device that he has put together, which is ingenious, which is basically a vacuum with a really long pole to kind of suck the bats out of wherever they are roosting. And it's kind of funny, but not funny at all. It's really a shame and it's embarrassing.
Have we gotten an estimate on how much it would cost to take care of the bats?
I have no idea.
You tried getting something, no, you couldn't get one, or you couldn't get permission by fixing the roof? What? And it didn't work, is what you're saying.
And then on top of it all, we just have basic functionality problems. I mean, we did do a little bit of renovation. We got some new chairs in there. We are still about, how many did we decide? 50 chairs short in there. We can't, if people came and we filled up that courtroom, which does happen from time to time, there would not be a place for them to sit. You should wander through the courtroom and see that the back end of the courtroom is completely bare. There are no chairs there. What courtroom in this state doesn't have enough chairs for people to sit in? The chairs that we do have for the jurors to sit in, which is fine, and I'm very grateful, and they're hand-me-downs from a nursing home. And I think most people can take a look at them and notice right away, these are nursing home chairs. There's nothing wrong with nursing home chairs, but this is what we have to deal with as the circuit court here. And I know that I've heard Stacy feel like, we feel like the black sheep, the red-haired stepchild of whatever, but in some ways it's true. We have continuing audio problems. We have continuing Zoom problems. This week, our Zoom went on the fritz, and we spent days just trying to cobble something together. Now, that isn't really, that's probably something that perhaps could not have been avoided. I don't really know. It's kind of above my pay grade, but it just goes to show that we desperately need systems that function correctly and well. We have been addressing some of the audio issues. We did also this week just get the request that we put in long ago for more microphones. And so I'm very grateful that now we have 2 microphones at each council table. Now I have a speaker at the bench so I can hear better. Those things have been addressed. I'm very grateful. I'm glad that kind of progress has been made. But there are also ongoing, continuing bigger issues. The courtroom setup leaves much to be desired. Ms. Harper has talked for a long time about Marcy's Law, which is a relatively new law that came on the scene a few years ago, sort of enhancing victim rights and requiring a lot more from the DAs and promoting privacy and respect and dignity that must now be given to victims. We have a very victim unfriendly courtroom. Victims that have to testify are required to sit within striking distance.
Audio.
He's muted now.
Oh, okay.
Victims are required in our courtroom to sit within striking distance of the jurors.
So
Literally.
If I have to talk about being sexually assaulted, who are the jurors?
And I know for a fact that the DA has spent literally hours trying to figure out how things could be reconfigured in that courtroom to sort of remedy that problem. Because it is a problem. I have no idea who eons ago decided that the courtroom should be set up that way. But to fix it would be a problem. The placement of the small courtroom is a problem. And I know I'm just going on and on and on, and I'm
No,
going to stop.
No, I actually, what I think, has anyone ever put all of this together in one document? And if you have any cost estimates, I mean, because I think what we need to do is come up with a plan for how we're going to do this. And the way to do that, I can't make a plan if I don't know every single thing. And you tell us this, but I'm not going to remember all the details, you know.
And I
So,
get that.
and I don't want to have to keep having this conversation. Not that it's not important, because it is. And I do agree with you that we need to keep hearing it in order for us to understand how important it is. But maybe the better route, or maybe maybe it's working together, continue with reminding us, but also if we could come up with a written, I have found in my few years on the county board that if I can come up with a report that summarizes exactly what we're talking about and then prioritizes, I mean, it's essentially a capital plan, because a lot of this would have to be done with capital monies. So I think you might already have started working on a capital plan, Stacy. I mean, in telling Candace or Clinton before that.
We do have some money in capital improvement.
But I think there's more to talk about. Like, if there's reorganization of the courtroom that needs to happen, or I think if we could get all of it together in one place, and I can help write it if you guys send me the information, or you're welcome to write it yourself. So however you want to do it. But maybe the best and most, efficient way to do this would be to actually have a written document that then goes on our website, and it goes to all the county board supervisors so that they understand the scope of what you're dealing with, and
Right.
just lay it all out there.
I really appreciate that. And I think that's why I've decided that I'm going to continue to talk about this. Because I think for a long time, those of us in the court system just kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, this is the way it is. But I realized that that is not the way it should be. We should all be shouldering this together and figuring out a plan together so that we can move forward together. And I realize that right now, there are conversations happening about what we need to do as a county about some of the problems. And, they've been talking about the fact that we need a new jail. People are getting behind the idea that we need a new jail. Well, you know what? Maybe we need a new courtroom too. And maybe all those things should happen at the same time.
Right.
And maybe, but we need to be having that conversation. And I know you agree with me, but I guess, as I'm relatively new in this, and I'm sort of plodding my way through county government, which is a new sort of endeavor for me, it's not really where I come from, that I realize somebody's got to continue to raise the discussion. Somebody's got to continue to sound the alarms about this is happening. And I know that we have a once in a lifetime opportunity to talk about what's happening with the campus property. And so what are we going to do there? But if people don't really understand what the needs are,
That's exactly why a
not-
report
that
would
is
be
not
helpful.
going to be a part of that conversation.
Right.
And
Ask for an agenda item that specifically is the security and the courthouse needs that the judge is talking about, so that those details are on an agenda and that they are in the minutes, not just as framed as circuit judge report, so that each month these
Well, and
specific things can be detailed.
And if we have a written document, that is something that can be shared with the reconfiguration committee. It's something that can be shared over and over again with the board until, obviously these problems didn't happen overnight, and we can't fix them overnight,
Right.
but they aren't going to get fixed at all if we don't have a plan and prioritize and chip away at it as fast as we can.
Right.
So, Mr. McKee, did you have a?
Yeah, I agree with you on a list. I also think that list should be, and I know all of these things are important, but I'm sure some of them are more important than others. And that
Prioritized,
the
yeah.
list states what needs to be done first, second, third, and on down the line. I know you come to these meetings and I remember some of the things you've talked about, but some of them I don't. And unless I have it in writing in front of me, it's hard for me to
Plus,
understand.
it's a document that could live from board to board because, next year is another election and there'll be more board members. And so I do think it would be worth the effort to write a really, very detailed.
Would it be worth, as Stacy said, to add an agenda item as a regular thing up, and regarding courthouse?
I
The
think,
courthouse security, courthouse functionality.
so my hesitation is that I hate to just sit here and talk and have you talk at us about what all is wrong. What I would rather have is, where we were brainstorming and actually coming up with ideas to address these things. So I think that's why I think if we could do the report first so that we can then we can put that on the agenda as, okay, we're going to tackle this item and we're going to come up with ideas as to what we can actually do about that item instead of you coming here and just telling us how bad it is, which is important because we need to keep hearing it. But I think it'd be more effective if we were actually trying to figure out what to do and how to do it.
And then I will also remind everybody that we have, on a quarterly basis, been meeting, the Courthouse Security Committee has been meeting. That's an excellent committee, and we've had some excellent conversations there. That committee is meant to be an advisory committee to this.
So maybe
committee.
quarterly having that on the agenda, having the report from the security committee and really taking a deep dive, every time after, like the month after that meeting, have them come, have one of you report to this committee and we can dive into what we at the public safety level can start, what recommendations we can start making to hopefully get some money behind. So, I mean, I'm assuming that all of the issues we have aren't getting fixed because we need money to do them.
Yes, I agree with that. The other concern that I think I have is I'm just wondering, in this campus reconfiguration committee, how are those conversations going to look and who's going to be spearheading them in terms of this important conversation? Who is doing that?
Mr. McKee, are you on that committee?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, and so is Mr. Turk?
I'm the chair of that committee.
Yeah, so you have two members, including the chair of that committee, on this committee. So I think if we could get that information together as soon as possible to present to that Dave and Richard could present to that committee as one of the many facets of our needs. Did you have anything? What do you think, Mr. Turk, what do you think as far as other information you might need for that committee? Or do you think just if we could gather all of this information into one document that?
Yeah, as far as how the process is going to work, the committee is just really getting organized now. Our administrator is working on a process for folks who have ideas about uses of that property to submit those to the committee for consideration. And, we'll obviously be making recommendations. We won't have power to make those decisions or anything, but, we want to look at whether it's, somebody from outside coming in and having an idea for utilizing it, whether the county can utilize it for something. All those kinds of things will come through that committee for discussion and consideration. So definitely getting it organized, and if there are thoughts about how the county could make use of that to address this situation, it would be appropriate to forward that to the committee, yes.
Okay, Mr. McKee.
Yeah, the 13th of this month, the committee's going to meet out at the campus. So I just want everybody to know that
That's the next meeting.
they're welcome to attend. It's a regular posted meeting. I think 6 o'clock, but I'm not sure.
Okay, did you have?
I thought I saw that just changed. Chair Luck, I'm also on that committee, so.
Oh, yeah.
we'll have a
So you have
voice
3
on
members of
this.
that committee on
Great.
this committee, so very well represented.
No, and I don't have anything else. Thank you for your
Okay,
time.
all right, thank you so much. All right, that brings us to the clerk of courts updates and monthly reports.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, I want to really thank the judge for her passion on this and for detailing thoroughly the needs in the court. They have, like you said, they've existed for a very long time. And we just always, it's been, the discussion is there is no money. So when we've sat down with John Hockemer, when the three of us did capital planning, I believe for next year, we have it in there to purchase chairs for the courtroom. Isn't that part of our?
Yeah.
So we are like tackling some of the smaller things, but the amount of money that we were told we could work with isn't large enough to tackle most of the things that were talked about. And just to add on to the bats, it's not, the bat dung isn't just on chairs. It's on the clerk's desk and all the things around there that we work with. And not to throw it in your face, but I have an immune disorder. And I have been uncomfortable with having bat dung. I'm choosing my words carefully because I get pretty ticked off about this. But it is something that it's a big deal.
So after the person came and took care of the problem, quote unquote, did we ever call them back and say it didn't work and say what else, like
Well,
what's
that's-
happening that it didn't work?
That'd be a question for Clint, probably.
I think that would probably be a good question for Randy as well. But
Why have we
I
not
don't
asked them to come back?
remember how that all shook out in the end. But yes, the bat remediation didn't work. And I don't know why it was never repaired. So I can't really speak to that.
Okay, so I feel like someone should ask Randy what happened, or someone who might know. I guess it would be Randy, because if it was Clint, obviously he's not here. And yeah,
It's actually a twofold thing. Because when I was downstairs in the corner in the basement, we had bats in the area all the time. I mean, it was a couple a week. But then remediation happened, and then they found structural damage or damage that needed to be taken care of in the roof and on the side of the building. So he didn't come back. He had to have that done. They did finally get that done. I believe he did come back one time. But the other thing is you're dealing with, and I'm not a specialist on bats, but you're dealing with a creature that has been living here for since 1889.
Right.
And so they
know where the
there's no
routes are.
guarantee on bat remediation. I mean,
but can we at least make it better?
I think you probably would want to look at somebody other than the
Person we
that
had
you-
before?
yes.
Okay, so I mean, I feel like let's figure out someone else and let's see how, then we'll get an estimate from them. But I mean, this seems like this is something that it has to be addressed and it should come out of the courthouse budget. And Randy's just gonna have to, I don't know. But anyway, let's find out. So let's make some phone calls. Somebody, I don't know, care which one of you wants to do it, but somebody find out someone else to do a better job of.
Sure.
of
Yeah, I
it.
was told that the bats don't live here, that they just get in here. And that,
That seems ridiculous.
it sure does.
Why wouldn't they live in the upstairs? I mean, it's pretty nice.
Well, if
for a
you've been
bat.
up in the attic,
Yeah, it's
you know they
beautiful.
live here, okay?
It's a beautiful place for a bat up in
If
that
you
attic.
think there's
yeah.
dung downstairs in the courtroom, it is literally the entire, all of the
It is. I was up there
insulation.
once, yeah.
It's full of it. It is disgusting. So yes, they do live here. They don't just visit. And I think that's the first thing, is that acknowledgement that they do live here.
Right, okay, so let's move forward with that.
Yeah.
Mr. McKee?
I was on the old Buildings and Grounds Committee. And at that time, we had somebody come in to seal up all the outside places where they could be getting in. And
You know what needs to be done is they need to sit out there at night and watch where they come out. That's how you find where bats are coming in.
I'm wondering if they
And a bat
can't
specialist would know that.
do something late at night
Yeah, bat houses.
where
Right, I
you
don't know why not.
fumigate the attic and literally killed them.
Cute bats.
I don't
You
know
might
if
want
it
to talk to my DNR before that. 'Cause
Yeah.
Little brown bats, the little
Are
browns.
there
are
little
infected.
browns? Is it little browns that are up there?
Yeah.
Well, they're not little.
No.
Well, compared
No,
to
no.
big brown.
They're probably protected.
I have a contact at the office. I'll just see if I can't find that, get it to Randy through the DNR. They have some contacts for people that can do bat remediation.
And
Yeah,
I don't think bat houses would hurt to have some
bat
bat
houses
houses
outside.
outside, I think would be a really good idea.
Yeah,
you
so
know.
let's just move forward with
Yeah.
it. Let's start addressing this because I agree it's a health hazard and we can't
Yeah,
tolerate.
it's,
I mean, if, for that matter, it's public health.
well, it's public health.
And
Yeah, it's not
so if
just
we have to
mine.
get
I mean, I'm
HHS
just-
involved with public health.
Well, I
funding.
did after, a few years ago, I did contact somebody because it wasn't being taken care of. And, he confirmed it's a public health problem. He's the regional
So maybe
guy.
we could
Paul
ask,
He
can
isn't.
can we possibly ask HHS if they have funding from any sort of grant or whatever to deal with public health issues? It would be worth a phone call to the public health office over at HHS.
I'll do that.
Okay, all right, so let's take some action there and try to at least get that taken care of.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Stacy. I think you were gonna say
Um,
something else.
No, so just that the security of the courthouse, I think that anytime any of you are like outside of Richland County, just, try to make a visit at any of the other courthouses too. We had a District 7, that's our judicial district that Richland County is part of, District 7 Clerk of Court meeting and training session at the Monroe County Courthouse, which is in Sparta. And, again, just like every other courthouse I visit, I emptied out, my pockets. I put my bag in it looked just like airport security scanner. And I mean, you can't access anywhere in the building until you can see the station as you're coming up to it before you open the door. You can see, oh, I'm gonna go through security, put my stuff in there, it scanned, and then I walked through the thing and did the body scan or whatever. And everybody that comes in, that's the only point they can come in the building. And then once they get through that, then they can go wherever they need to go. And, I thank them for doing that because it does keep the people then, all of the people, not just court staff and the people coming to court, but people coming, paying their taxes, getting their, whatever they're doing in your courthouse. So that is more common than not. I can't remember a time that I've entered a courthouse other than our own that I haven't went through some sort of security now. So it's what we got going on is the anomaly. So I presented to you guys reports at different levels. So I know that you wanted like the June report. So I gave you that, but I have access to also the July. And then I asked Tammy Wheelock if she could run me just expenditures as of yesterday. And so then I sent that in a follow-up one too, so that you can see where we are at 50% of the way through the year, and then where we were at 67% of the way through the year as of yesterday. When I look at the expenses, it's going to be no surprise. I talk about it all the time. What drives up our budget are the attorney fees. So on the second page of expenditures in that second email that I sent to you, you can see as of yesterday what the county clerk's office had paid. Unfortunately, that's not including the bills I submitted yesterday. Or that will be submitting in the ones that I submitted for signature yesterday. So, they come as a proposal from the attorney, the judge signs them. I prepare the invoice for the county clerk, they pay it, and then I work on getting the money back from the defendant. And one of those bills yesterday was over $5,000. Just one of them. So, nothing I can do about it, nothing you can do about it. Nothing anybody can do about it.
Did you budget more money in
I
that
keep
this year?
trying to, yeah,
Or for
I
24?
did. I can't remember how much more, but I went off of like, last year and the year before. That's
Kind of
what I
what you-
do is I budget, but, I'm into realistic budgeting. That's my thing.
Right.
And for years, I was kind of told that I couldn't do that. And so now at least, we have common sense ruling as we're doing things. And so, yeah, I'm working with administration to try to do
Accurately
that.
reflect what your actual costs are.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds
Great.
good.
So expenditures are harsh. Revenues look like they are on pace. I did increase the revenue projections for this year too, and so that requires an even more aggressive attempt on my part to get money, and so it's gonna be close. I hope I hit projections, but projections, I'll just remind you, they were set pretty high. Anyways, so we've got 5 months to meet the projection of $249,000 of revenue. And at the end of July, we were at nearly 176,000. So we've got 70-some thousand yet to meet the projections. It's gonna be close. I can't tell you how it's gonna, it depends. And one of my favorite tools that I use is state debt collection. And they have been not as great as what they used to be. And something that clerks are kind of talking about, everybody's seeing this trend, even though we've got a lot of debts out there to them. I think that there's a few factors that play into that. Now that more counties are on state debt collection, they probably have the same amount of staff down at the Department of Revenue doing these. And so they have the same amount of people working the debts. They're overwhelmed on it. So I don't know if they plan to add more people or, what, but there is that. They've also, anybody who is a difficult defendant that gives them a lot of gruff. Not say anybody, but the ones that give them a lot of gruff. We find that those debts come back to us, they say they're uncollectible. And they don't give you a reason for why they're uncollectible. And so I'll look at the uncollectible debts and I'll be like, they found out that that person is difficult too. But I would have liked it if they would have pursued the collections because they have the information on where the person works, where their bank accounts are. They can actually levy it right out of the bank account. So why didn't they? Stuff like that. And I know the kind of, I always say threats, the kind of feedback I get sometimes, which they are, I guess threats, we just get used to it. So I don't know if some of it is for the safety of their people down there too, that some of these debts that are hard to get money on, they just say it's not worth it and they turn it back to the county. I don't know. But they still collect a great deal of money for us. It's just, I'm noticing that trend too. And when we got together as a district, all of us clerks were comparing notes and finding the same thing. So we might be kind of at our max of our efforts on collections. And, we pull out all the stops. Yesterday, I went through and worked on payment plans, defaulted payment plans. So we still have 123 people set on monthly installment plans that I manage that are in good standing. Those people are current with their payments. Yesterday, I did collection actions on 37 individuals who were not in good standing. So, that's about typical is people, the ones that set up, that's about the failure rate that's typical on that. And not everybody sets up a pay plan. Some people just pay whatever, but so we are doing every single thing that we can.
Okay. I mean, looking at your budget, I think as of the new one you sent, you're at 65% spent for 67% of the year. So as
Well,
far as you can tell, if you
Yes
probably get
and
some
no.
legal fees coming in that.
no,
later.
it's not as chipper as that, Melissa. Look at page 2.
Oh,
So,
you're at 72% when you get.
right,
Right,
and
okay, I
that
was
is
looking at
because
bottom
of the
first
attorney
page.
fees. So that second page is where they have the attorney fees separated out. So if they were fitting within the budget like we want them to be, we'd be at 65%, but they're not.
All right, any questions for the clerk of court? All right, then that would bring us to, I believe, register and probate.
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna keep mine probably a little shorter than maybe normal today. So the main thing is that my deputy is reaching the end of her probation period next week. We're very happy with how she's doing, so we'll be making that status change, but I just wanted to formally put that on the record, so to speak, that her probation period will be ending next week, and I will be submitting a status change to Tammy for that. So she's very conscientious and thorough and is very compassionate with people that come. So she's working out very well, and we're very happy to
That's
have
good.
her.
Good news. This is Jenny Markey.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the main formal thing I wanted to announce. And then the second thing, just for a little bit of clarification on my part. So I know we have a county board meeting coming up September 19th, and that will be reviewing the budget. So I guess with all of this discussion today, when you are looking at capital improvement projects, just keep in mind everything that has already been said today, and looking at the big picture and stuff, because we will need every dollar we can get for those capital improvement projects. So that will be before you shortly.
Right, and reminder that cameras in at least a few of the areas that you mentioned are going to be incorporated into the jail locks camera portion of the radio tower project, correct? It will cover all the areas that they're concerned about? Okay, so at least that's another piece that's getting taken care of. But I would still include it on the list, and then we can check it out. You know, just documenting progress we have made in the last 6 months, year, whatever. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So yeah, so we are, for the first time, actually, we were actually excited to have some capital improvement money that is proposed to be set aside for some of the issues that we have already spoken about this morning. So just wanted to remind you of that with the upcoming meeting and the budgets and everything of where we're at with that proposal. So other than that, I just have to restate again, Judge McDougall does have a lot of out-of-county cases that have already come her way and will be coming that way. So from one of the Vernon County clerks, I think she has nearly 100 Vernon County cases. So her calendar is very, very busy. It's very, very tight. She's working very hard. I have to, when she's not here, she's doing other things, but when she is here, she's being in a lot of time, both in Richland County, Iowa County, and Vernon County. So with all of the changes in surrounding counties near us, that is impacting Judge McDougall quite a lot. So just keep that in mind. That the courthouse. So today, for example, we have we'll have Judge McDougall, and then we have a visiting judge, and then she's going to Iowa County later. So we do have a lot of visiting judges coming in.
I do have a question about courthouse or courtroom security for Sheriff Porter. What is the constraint that we haven't been able to fill the positions that we have approval for?
I guess I would say a combination of lack of interest in, like, we used to always have like a pool of retired people who wanted to come back and work court security. We don't really have that anymore.
So we have money set aside for courthouse security officers.
We budget for courthouse security, right
For
now.
one or
Multiple.
multiple? Okay,
Part-time.
right.
Or casual. The bulk of the courtroom security is done by somebody who has a full-time job elsewhere, and one retired person, and then one law enforcement officer that I found that was interested in working part-time.
So it's not an issue of your budget,
No,
to be clear. It's an
and-
issue of
and-
not finding
And like,
staff.
to elaborate on that, we used to have 5 or 6 people that were in the rotation. And so we're covering with about half the people we used to have.
Right.
But you're talking about multiple people covering sort of a 40-hour work week, right?
Yes,
But we're talking about,
Because when there's 2 courtrooms, you need 2 people.
and someone to bring inmates up and down.
So
so
is that
the
something that can
courtroom
be,
isn't unmonitored.
right? So that's sort of a procedural thing where could it potentially not be the courthouse security officer that comes down, but a admin or someone else who's
and
in,
we have done that. We have done that.
sorry, I know.
Um, And I guess, we could try and do that more. The issue we have is I think we could probably, if we could find 2 people to work the same day all the time, we could probably better accommodate that. But sometimes we don't have that second person to cover both courtrooms. And then, that's not even taken account for.
Someone
somebody
leaving the
to run back.
courtroom to come to the jail.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this? I mean,
My-
was
my-
the
my-
answer that we have to hire people specifically to do that? Like we have one full-time
Maybe.
person and then we
Yeah.
fill in with casual? Is
I mean,
that,
I've been thinking this, and I know this isn't the first time I've said this in a meeting. Probably need to look at staffing, having a full-time deputy.
that's
court
40
clerk,
hours a week in the courtroom and then,
we-
and then
we
you would
cover
fill in the rest with
additional
casual.
courtrooms. We
So,
cover
I
the-
mean, that's what I'm trying to get at is
Yeah.
if that's what we have to do to fix this situation, then we need to start talking about that because obviously I mean, budgeting additional staff is always
I think-
going to be a problem.
I think
but
the best way
Jail
for us.
administrator, would that help with this
Well,
situation?
and that was a consideration when we created that position. The jail administrator was going to be kind of a multifaceted role where they were going to be in charge of, like, they would be top above the jail, but they would also it'd be like lieutenant of security. So they would be
Right.
over the jail and over court
Courtroom.
security. And that they would be a fill-in if we needed a fill-in in court security.
Was that position, is it still in the 2024 budget or was it cut from your 2024 budget?
I would best describe it as it's in limbo. I sat down and Amber sat down and we looked at the budget and we're trying to make some things work. But I have not gotten no, it's not going to happen. I have not gotten
Yes, it's still in there.
I'm not comfortable with a yes yet either. So
So maybe that's part of the solution is if that position is funded, which has been talked about for a long time for many reasons.
yeah,
If that position can help alleviate
it
some of
would.
this. But
but
would
that
it,
person also is not going to be available to the
Full-time.
court
Full-time.
full-time either.
right, that's
So,
what I'm,
because that's going to be a very,
yeah, so I
that's going to
think.
be a very active
So I
person.
think what I need from you, or what we need from you is, a kind of a very realistic evaluation of your ability to staff 2 courtrooms. And I don't know if you guys, how hard it is for you to tell us how often 2 courtrooms happens. Like if you just can go over the last schedule from the last few weeks and just say in an average, in a month, there's an average of this many hours where we have 2 courtrooms going. So that he could have a better idea of what it would take to fill that. So why don't we?
I think in what I wanted to say is in a perfect world, I would have a person dedicated full-time for court security. And then when those days where we're running a second courtroom.
That's when your casuals would
we
come
would
in.
have the casuals come in and cover those.
Right, but getting a new position is something we have to, I mean, it'll be difficult, but I mean, but if we don't talk about it, then it's never gonna happen. So I think I think we need you guys to tell us exactly what the needs are when you have 2 in the courtroom. How often? I mean, I do think we can probably somehow scab together so that you don't, that someone brings people from the jail instead of the security officer having to leave the courtroom to go down, but I don't know. Because that would probably fall on Clay and the admin team.
There are ways that we can, and the camera system will help as well, but there are ways we can monitor the courtroom, at least the audio of the courtroom when we leave the courtroom. So
I'm guessing that they want more from you than you want to give, and there's some little
well, no, it's
dynamic
not,
there,
it's
but-
not I don't think it's that they want more than I'm willing to give. It's we got to find a way to give it.
Okay.
Back and forth on the, it's not like there's no communication like. oh,
Right. You're letting them know your schedule.
but
Right.
like, and it's weekly, that there's at least one day out of every week, I would say, that we're doubled up. Is that fair? Yeah, and that doesn't include, I don't work, a lot of work in there as well.
So-
right? In my view, I'm the criminal prosecutor, and I think that's,
I'm the criminal prosecutor, and I think what Deb does is far more dangerous in a courtroom setting, so.
it's all communicated also.
So I guess, Clay, from my perspective, what we need to know is why you can't fulfill the request to never have the security officer leave the courtroom and what you need to be able to do that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Were we on you, right? Got sidetracked.
So did you get the reports that I had submitted under mine? Okay, so
Mhm.
the budget, my budget is actually okay right now, but a lot of time,
They don't submit till the end of the year.
yeah,
Darn
they're getting
attorneys.
better at that. They are getting better at that, but.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, it looks okay.
Yes, as of right now, it looks
Yeah.
okay. So, having said that, I just have to make one more statement about the budget coming up. So kind of as a reminder, I do feel like in 2023, there have been departments that have received, quite a lot in 2023. And there have been other departments that have gone without. And just please keep that in mind. I have to put out a little plug for emergency management. I feel like they have gone without. I would like to state that for the record. Obviously, you can see that the sheriff's department is still struggling to meet their needs. So I'm just would like to have the county board realize that some have received things in 2023, and some of us have really tried hard to meet our budgets and make it work with what we have.
Great. All right. So that brings us to district attorney.
Sure.
Show your mic is on.
Yes, it
Mhm,
is on.
okay.
I made sure before I started. So we've talked about a lot of problems here that we have in the courthouse, and we have in the jail, and we have this, and we have that. But no one, although we've all talked about it outside of this, has talked about the real solution. We need a new LAJC center, is the bottom line. It'll take care of the courtroom security. It'll take care of personal security. It'll take care of the jail. It'll take care of Marcy's law. It will take care of the bats.
Right, but best case scenario, that's 5-10 years. So how do we fix
Sure.
in the meantime is
And I'm
really,
Sure, I'm not sure about that exactly. So I know the judge was looking into some other timeframes just by the by. So, but we have to start talking about that as well. And I don't know that we always have to say it's going to be that long down the road.
hey, I mean, it'd be nice.
It would be nice. So, so let's say, hey, maybe we don't have to put it on that far of a time frame. In any event. So nothing exciting is happening in my office with respect to the things that this committee is particularly interested in. I do have, it's farther down on the agenda is our budgets through June of this year. I have court actually in a little bit, so I'm wondering if I can just tackle that right now.
Go for it. I think everyone's kind of done it as they've gone. Yeah. She did email it to us as well. If anyone wants to look at it. Your budget's looking really nice, actually. It is. Yeah, you can have it.
Anyone cares. It's one page and it does not include the entire page. Lots of blank space. So just once again, just very briefly, everything above the line That is salaries and benefits. It takes up 95% of my budget. Below the line is 5% of the budget. That's for stuff like telephones and transcripts and paper clips and classified ads and things like that. So that's the 5% of my budget. We are, as of the end of June, we're at 40% of our budget. And of course, at that point, we're at 50% of the year. And that's due to staffing in my office, which has now been taken care of. There are a couple of things that are over budget under the line that I've taken care of that I budgeted for next year. For instance, if you look at transcripts, I have $1,000 a year dedicated towards transcripts, which my corporation counsel actually laughed at me. He was like, "You've got to be kidding. Why isn't it like $15,000? And I said, anyway, so $1,000. But by the end of June, we were at $1,500, which of course is 500, $600 over. And that's because we have a couple of new attorneys who are extremely litigious and order transcripts all the time. And when they order transcripts, we order transcripts, just the way it is. So I've modified my budget for next year to accommodate that. Postage and envelopes. Postage went up. Who knew? I didn't know that postage went up. I guess it did.
Goes up twice a year these days.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know people actually use like mail that much anymore, that the government would increase in any event. So there are a couple of things like that on here that are a bit over, but it's 5% of my budget. We're way over. We're at 40% at 50% of the year. And that's what I know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Just like me.
All right. So that brings us to emergency management.
Morning.
Morning.
So I did attempt to put these spreadsheets into the folder. I was having some struggles with the PDF viewer this morning, so they're in there kind of cockeyed, but I'll just go over the two programs. Emergency management, 110, 5241, if you're looking at in your tablet. Through June 30th, we had 45% of our budget was used, 55% remaining. The total budget's $73,000 year to date through June 30th. We'd spent $33,000. There were a couple of lines in there: workers' comp insurance and truck and command post. Those came in higher than what was anticipated. So between the two of those, it'll be about $1,400 over. And there's not a lot of fluff in this budget at all. So I'm hoping we don't have anything happen for the next 6 months, the next 4 months, that we can come in on budget. Revenues for both the emergency management and LEPC don't come until the following year. They're both grant funded, federal grants and state grants. And so we don't receive those until the year is over. Program reports are submitted, financials are submitted, and then we get reimbursed. So there's no revenue to show for those at this time. For the LEPC, the budget again is a $20,000 budget. The only thing we have in there is expenses for the hazmat team equipment and contract for Mr. Heinen. We are purchasing a new radio for emergency management out of this, just anticipating that be able to use the AFG grant if we get it, because it's emergency management, it's not EMS. So we're trying to utilize that grant to kind of get the command post and other vehicles that we have for emergency management up. So with the radio systems up, we're not asking for any money from the department for radios. So questions on the budget? I mean, it's just when we get to the closer to the end of the year, it's a truer picture because there's some, contract services hasn't been paid and things like that.
Some things that comes out once a year, whatever.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Have you made any plans to do any like drills or emergency active shooter kinds of things in the courthouse and or HHS this year?
I have not made any plans for that. So this year, we submitted a survey out, and I think I mentioned it at department head meetings and some others, but there was a survey that was sent out back in May about the training that people would want, whether it's training and exercise. So we we took that feedback. We're developing that plan right now. And that's a requirement for all emergency managers in the state. But Sheriff Porter did reach out to me and say that there was a courthouse security meeting where it was mentioned you wanted to do some kind of a drill or whatever. So it certainly falls right in my bailiwick. It's what emergency management does. So,
I mean, I think it's something that should happen, like it should just be something we automatically do once a year, twice a year, whatever, like it should just be scheduled as an automatic thing. Would make sense to me anyway, but you
Yeah.
guys would, I guess, know better, but.
it really depends on what you're wanting. You have a workshop, which is just training and education. You have a tabletop exercise, which is bringing all the partners together and here's your scenario and you're at a table and you just walk through it. No players, no
Right.
equipment. Full scale exercise takes a lot more planning. I mean, it's a good 12 to 14 months to plan on a full scale exercise, but it can be done. And I've been a part of them. I've developed them with Iowa County. I was an evaluator for theirs 4 years ago. And I worked with Crawford County. So, I apologize for not taking the initiative on that. I guess it was just get so many things on your plate and
You do, and you have a lot.
but this is certainly something I would love to do and can do and am capable of doing.
I mean, I just feel like that is something that we could actually do to improve security in the courthouse for the employees and people.
Sure.
So, and it will cost staff time, but it doesn't have a huge price tag. At least, certainly the tabletop doesn't have a price tag.
Price tag is just a good time. Yeah.
Staff time, which is not insignificant, but I
Right.
think it's something worth investing in that we can do. And if we can do it, we should do it. So, I mean, I'll leave it to you guys to kind of figure that out, but I'd like to see something happen, as soon as it can, whatever that means.
I mean, if you wanted something done this year, I mean, it's a possibility.
Maybe even because even a tabletop would help all of them work through, all of the scenarios and just start figuring out what would be the most effective actual training, like a drill or whatever, a pretend one.
I think the key that I would need is what's the gap? What's your biggest gap? Is it lack of coverage? Is it access? Is it
I think it's several.
what is the gap that you want the scenario to go through? And then we would want to take whatever policy we have, because you build an exercise to test the policy, to expose the gaps, to figure out how to fix those gaps. And that could be something we could potentially do yet this year.
When's the next courthouse security meeting? So maybe that's the meeting to talk about like what kind of planning we want to do and invite Darren to that meeting and then actually figure out a schedule. Because I feel like if we don't get it on a schedule, it can easily fall off. I mean, everyone's busy. I realize how busy everyone is, but I feel like for security purposes, this is something we could do that would actually improve safety.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, we could do everything within my office in-house up to about the full scale. This full scale gets a little bit more tricky because now you're trying to facilitate an exercise at the same time. What is my role to play in that exercise? So we've been successful in getting grants to, there's a couple of individuals that in the state of Wisconsin that used to work for the training section of Wisconsin Emergency Management, now go on their own. And these training grants will fund them 100%. They develop that exercise, and then they evaluate the exercise and provide the after action review and the improvement matrix and all that. So if it's something, I mean, we're going to do that. The grant period opens up in January. So it'd be like a 2025 exercise applying for 2024.
I mean, I think we should take advantage of,
So
for sure, that would be something to keep on the radar.
yeah. But the rest of it, workshops and tabletops and stuff like that, can be done in-house. That's why we have got John, it's one of his things within his contract that he does.
Okay.
So
Okay.
easy.
Is your mic on?
So I just wanted to mention or remind this committee, I don't know if they were aware of it, but we did have two things that occurred. One was in the courtroom that took place where Jeff and Darren, and they had, videos on active shooters and went over tourniquet training and some of those things. So we did have that occurred. when Clint was here. And then we did have a department head meeting. Billy Jones was at both of those. He spoke at them, where he came in and department heads were brought in. So I didn't want this committee to think that nothing had been done. We
No, I-
did have those two trainings.
Right, but I feel like a one and done is not how this should work, right? Like this is something that, because things change, everything changes. Every year there's different threats and different whatever, so,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's more of your annual training that you're talking about. Would just be, even if it's an hour in service, what do we do if we're trying, I mean, I don't know how you'd lock this building down, Clay. I have no idea. You know, I'm not a cellar dweller anymore, so I don't, but I just know there was lots of ways to get in and out, and it'd just be a nightmare. So-
Is part of the capital plan that we proposed getting a scanner, one entryway and a metal detector and that stuff? Because that also requires a body, that requires a person to sit there all day long.
I don't think there's enough money in that capital improvement. I think they, at this point, off the top of my head, they were looking at $25,000, which will not touch any of that.
Okay,
I think the main priority right now is the Zoom capability in the small courtroom and functionality a little
right,
bit more.
which is important. Too. Okay, all right.
So just one, I guess, one question for the ladies from the court system is it, I know the court generally is open. What would be the best way, we could talk about this offline, what would be the best way to observe, just so I could take some notes? Probably I would ask Sheriff Porter or Lieutenant Sis to sit with me and just take some notes, so that as I'm putting this together, how would I do that without being interrupted, you know, or to being. Okay. Don't notice, just find a quiet spot. Okay. Okay. I think that'd be helpful. Just observe some things as if we're gonna build an exercise. What's that? Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Wednesdays, you said?
Okay.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
Thank you. So that brings us to PSAP GIS grant monthly update. How's it going? Any more training? I think training is where we have to spend more dollars, right? And you're tucking your mic so the people online can hear. Sorry.
Sergeant Collins submitted a few more receipts from some trainings that she had signed up jailer dispatchers for.
Awesome.
So I have to get those scanned in and sent over, and yeah, we're spending more money on training.
And Barb's not here to update us. Oh, maybe you know, John, you don't know. No, okay.
Yeah,
Chair, if I could interrupt a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the next round, of applications have gone through, they were reviewed this last week by the state. And so those approvals should be coming out in the next couple of months for whatever was submitted for Richland again. So, just to remind people that this was a $6 million round. The next round coming out probably June of next year, June, July, something like that, will be 10 million. So keep an idea of the things that need to be done for the 911 center, because there's definitely some money coming available on a rotating basis here.
Thank you.
Those two grants, they were submitted on time. So you're thinking we'll hear something in a week or two, did you say, or a month or two? I'm sorry.
So I'm gonna guess it's gonna be a month or two before they come out. They were all reviewed this last week. We gotta wait for responses back from a number of the agencies to see what the bottom line is gonna be. So it'll be a couple months before you see round twos. This last round that was submitted, it was due August 1st, I think. So I'm gonna guess it's gonna be November-ish before we see that out to everybody.
Okay. So the other thing that I came across, and I think it was in the budget, is the state of Wisconsin is going to be redoing the Wisconsin system and going on to the 800 megahertz, but they're going to make money available to local jurisdictions to purchase radios, dual band radios, VHF at 700, 800 megahertz. Did you hear that same thing, Bob?
So what I'm hearing with that is, yes, there'll be money available for those agencies that are primary or regular users. Iowa County is a primary user. I think Juneau is. So those, Douglas County is. Those counties that are currently, that's their primary radio, that there'll be money for that. I did not hear anything for agencies that are not primary users.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you, by the way, for all the work on the grants. I really appreciate how much time you put in on.
We're still in the running on the AFG grant, so
When will-
every Friday they make announcements.
So it's a good sign. That means we're getting close. They gotta be getting close to the end. Okay.
They will make announcements all the way into February of next year.
Why do they drag it out so much?
It's just a process of making sure that each state, entities in each state get so much.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So I think we are now to the Sheriff's Department. Approve monthly invoices and other Sheriff's Department reports. Let's start with the bills. I have some questions on the bills. Because it's the first time I've seen some bolded things. And one of them concerns me a little. It's the food, which we thought we were going to be under budget on, right? Or we just budgeted less, we saved the 85,000 or whatever, but is it because our population is more that we're not? Yeah, thank you.
We budgeted less because our contract came in lower and our population was lower.
But now our population
And
has
now our
been up 30.
population has been higher.
Been at
Yeah,
around
a lot
30-ish.
higher.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're spending,
So it's
Spend a lot of
already
money on food.
overspent and we're only in August? That's what you're telling me? We still have 5 months?
so that was part of the big budget
So-
increase for 24 is because our population has been a lot higher and we've been spending a lot more money on food.
Right, and we can't not have we don't have a lot of control over that population, correct?
So, what little control I have, I've been exercising a lot lately. Actually just going into this weekend, I've put out a request that we're not taking probation holds unless it's a sex offender or a violent offense.
Okay,
Because we're
max
at
out.
capacity.
Okay.
Already going into the weekend, we're at capacity.
We are not taking sanctions because we have enough of our own people in there,
Yeah.
correct? So
Yeah.
we're also not making
So we're
income
also not making revenue off.
revenue
sanctions.
that we thought we were gonna make.
Yep.
So which means the budget is gonna be overspent this year, probably
Yes.
no question.
What?
400,000 overspent?
That's an increase for next year. Yeah. Yep. So
And
a lot of, if you I guess this is off topic, but if you look at my 2024 budget, a lot of the increases in expenses are jail related. It's care of prisoners.
Have we seen your
medical,
2024 budget?
food.
I don't think we've seen
don't
your
know if you've seen
2024
it.
budget. I
Yeah.
feel like our budget process this year is a little bit strange. I haven't
And
seen
it's-
anything.
It's still a fluid document as of right now.
Yeah, but we're gonna get presented, I'm assuming the board's gonna get presented some budgets and we'll have not seen any of this, so whatever, we'll see. And then the other one would be medical exams and mental health fees from Richland County HHS, so.
Yep.
I don't know how we budgeted for those for this coming up year.
So yeah,
So I'm assuming we probably have cut that line past years because we wanted to cut our budget and it's just, now it's biting us.
and again, it comes back to
More people
More
means
people.
more health exams, more.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else have questions on the budget? Or I mean the bills, sorry.
Good stuff. Who does the health exams?
So we contract with ACH, Advanced Correctional Healthcare. We have a nurse that's here twice weekly. And then we have a doctor every other week that comes in. So it's all contracted.
Okay.
Thanks.
You mean mental health? The question was,
So,
if-
so mental health, they do provide our mental health services. As far as like healthcare, medical care, they used to provide that for us, years ago. I think they're, how do I want to say this? Because it's not my arena and it's not my department, but I think their current medical staff at HHS, they're running,
Public health is an
Running.
office of one.
yeah, it's an office of one now. And I think they're running pretty,
Well, this would be mental
Steady.
health, not public health, correct?
well, ACH is medical.
Medical, okay.
Yeah.
But also line 17 is Richland County HHS. So we pay ourselves to do the mental health
Yes. That's another one of those areas.
that I don't understand.
Yeah.
That I don't
I
understand.
don't think any of us do.
And then, I think it's.
Is it,
much-
is it an employee over there or is it a contracted person that
No,
they're
it's an
paying?
employee over there. I think it's as much, again, because we've had this discussion recently, it's, we're tracking where the money,
It's so confusing.
So do you need to have a physician? And the reason why I'm asking is, I have staff. There's days that we're swamped, but a couple of them are nurses.
Oh, EMTs?
Nurses.
Oh, nurses.
Yeah, 2 of them are nurses.
Giving the meds?
Yes,
You're just,
we're prescribing medicine,
because we're looking at an opportunity to do community medicine. It's a ways down the road, but it might be something where, as I'm planning for that, incorporating this into it.
Oh, this is
I-
community medicine for sure.
I would be curious, I'm not sure how, I think this is something we need to explore. One other thing, and Mike just mentioned it, we're trying to figure out how to get our MAT, medical assisted treatment program in for drug dependency. So, and I think that's been kind of an issue is how do we store that? Who administers it? And so maybe that's something we can collaborate on. If you think back a while ago, we got approval to apply for a MAT grant. Well, actually, I think HHS did the application for us for treatment for opioid addiction, stuff like that. And then, kind of reentry into the community with Vivitrol treatment. And so there are some things we're still trying to work through with that maybe we can work together on.
You guys maybe talk about, I think we're a little off topic, just since we're supposed to be talking about bills, although it's all related because we're trying to figure out how not to get bills. But, okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the bills. Motion by McKee.
Bob will second.
Second by Boyce. Any other questions on the bills or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, bills are approved. That brings us to the sheriff's report.
All right. August vouchers were $24,743.59. 62 for the number of jail bookings. Average number of inmates housed is 35.69. Actually, I'm a little shocked by that because I think the last 3 weekends I've gotten a call about jail population. So
So it's probably a little higher.
we've been,
Or
yeah, well,
are you
I'm
trending
sure
higher?
the numbers are accurate, but it seems like whenever we hit the weekend or we're heading to the weekend, we're overpopulated. Monthly complaints, 278. Traffic citations issued, 124. Traffic warnings issued, 14.
Why? It's
Warnings.
almost always 0. Why 14? That seems like a lot.
Somebody's trying warnings. Somebody's giving warnings a try. Again, like I've said in the past, usually the warnings, when you give a warning, it's a verbal and
You don't write it,
then
yeah.
that's the end of it because then you don't have to do the paperwork to follow it up. But somebody is out
has
there
decided-
doing written warnings, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Because
you
of the
never
way
got a
our
warning.
system works, you'll be able to run that person and say, "Oh,
You
look,
just got a warning for this.
you
and
just got a
didn't
warning
fix
for
it."
this." And so instead of the verbal,
I'm sorry,
where-
I've never
Yeah.
seen a number, like, there's almost, like, usually it's 1, if not 0. So
Yeah.
that's interesting that it's 14. Okay, moving on.
Civil process, 15 papers served, 9 transports for the month, and 5 for the average number on
So
electronic.
just out of curiosity on that one, did they finish their
Yeah.
thing and It
Yeah.
isn't that they went back to jail and
No,
it's that
no.
they finished
A
there.
lot of times, even if they go back to jail, it's only a temporary, like a
Right.
5-day
And-
back to jail. So,
And you guys have a process how you evaluate who's appropriate for that,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
526 calls for service into dispatch, 85 calls for EMS, and 129 calls for the police department. I do, just to talk on budget a little bit, and sorry, the sheets are not included in your folder. I can email them out if you'd like.
Yes, I would like to see that.
So through June, we were at right around 50% on our, I would say, our main expense sheets. With one exception, we were at 55% on police radio. Now that deals a lot with paying our tower contracts and our tower leases. So it's just when we pay those, that money goes out, and so
Right.
that puts us over
Un-
early.
Right, yeah.
Going into the completion of July, we're still in that like just above 50% range on our main sheets. 52, 56.
Even for jail?
Even for jail that month. Let's see here. Where's my jail sheet for July?
Yeah, if you can definitely email us to us, that'd be great.
Yes, I will. Yes, so jail, we were at 52% ending at the end of July.
So we must be underspending in other areas.
We are
For
underspending.
overspending.
I would say a big one is probably salaries, because we'll go through these periods of time where we're short-staffed.
Short-staffed,
And
and even overtime isn't overtaking costs.
would say no, with the 12-hour shifts, we've been.
How's that? Oh, we can't talk about that. It's not on the agenda. Maybe put that on the agenda for next
Well,
time
it's
to just give
my
us an
sheriff's
update.
report, so.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
How's that going?
So the 12-hour shifts are going well. I think it has minimized some overtime. And
And they're happy?
everybody seems to be accepting it, embracing it, and liking it.
Both
So,
jail and
Yep.
road?
yes.
Okay,
So,
yay.
yeah.
Sorry. That happens every time you're at this meeting.
One other thing that I actually forgot to mention last month, we were awarded a grant for the body cameras in the jail. If you think back, 'cause this goes back a long ways, we were approved to apply for a small rural and tribal body worn camera grant. We applied for it. Lieutenant Sis applied for it, and we were awarded the grant. So that was a 50% match. So we had already purchased the cameras. Now we'll get 50% of the cost reimbursed to us.
That's awesome. Thank you for applying for that. It all helps. So we already have the cameras.
We already have the cameras.
So now everybody in the jail also has a good camera that doesn't die.
Yep. So they're sharing them. We purchased 5, and they're sharing the cameras.
But everyone on duty.
But everyone on duty has a camera. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So is that it for your reports, I think? Okay, so that brings us to jail inspection report discussion. So I don't know if you all remember, but when we did our jail inspection in January, I think it was, there was a few items that we had given them, please address this by such and such a date. And so I asked them to come back to us and let us know how that's going. So I didn't bring my copy of the jail inspection report, so you'll have to tell me which ones had deadlines. I believe one was like the grates, the suicide proof grates was one probably, and the shower was probably one of them, but I can't remember for sure.
So the grates have been installed now.
Was that one of them?
That was one of them.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to open it too.
Yeah, can you look at it? I meant to bring a copy of it, but it's on my laptop, not iPad, so I don't have
Is
it.
it in the folder?
No,
Oh,
it's not.
and
I think that's one that we haven't
the
been.
showers were done end of 22. So we had.
So they
some
were in
extra-
the jail inspector's report because he was there in October, but they were,
The
they were
contractor
first.
came, I believe, in November,
Okay,
because there was some back and forth with
right.
some of the work that was done that I had them repair.
It should be in my sent folder because I sent it to you, but I can't find the document. So if you have it open,
I don't, but I will soon, hopefully. Yes. To touch base, because this was brought up earlier in the report from the courts, is that the camera system, we're plugging away on that. We're moving forward. We did sit down with the vendor and go over basic drawings of what the system would look like and where cameras would be. We found areas that we felt were overcovered, and we're able to relocate some cameras to cover some corridors of the court. I think the only thing that I think the court requested that we haven't done is added more cameras to the parking lot. So, but I think the areas, the courtrooms are both covered.
the law library.
That landing, the common area between the two courtrooms is covered. The entryway to the other side of the main courtroom has a camera now. So
When will they get installed? Is there any kind of
that's a
date?
good question.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't have a date on that yet.
What, and the jail locks part of that?
And the
scenario?
jail locks is part of that as well. So
Is there finally movement on
yeah,
that?
there's moving on. So that was all one thing. We discussed that all together. And then the other big thing was the cameras for booking area, the holding cells, and then basically the rest of the jail.
Jail. Mhm.
And intercoms is part of that as well. So that stuff is being addressed. It's just a slow
I
process.
think intercoms was part of the inspection report follow-up, so that's good to know. And cameras, I think was part of the follow-up. I don't know, I can't remember now.
I don't see, was this your report that you're referencing? Okay,
Yeah.
I have I have the inspector's report.
Yeah, no,
So that's why I'm not finding the follow-up, because I'm looking at the.
yeah, no, it's
inspector's report.
mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
Amber, I mean, I copied you on that too, as far as, because it should be filed with the inspection report from this committee. At least I think I did.
I think the only thing we really haven't completed yet, though, was the cameras.
The cameras, which
And the- and the
which has been in the works for
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And we've got the money set aside. It's
Yep,
just a
the
matter of
money's
getting
there.
it taken care of.
And
Okay.
we're plugging away at it, but it's I'm hoping that'll be an early 24 completion.
Okay. Well, I guess let's put it back on next month and then we can include we've been careful about posting all of this stuff just because it contains sensitive information about the setup of our jail and things like that. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't, I don't want to go into a lot of detail. That if we're going to go into a lot of detail, we would need to go into closed session because it would be a security risk to talk about some of this stuff. So I guess what I just need to know is if you guys want to just look at every single thing and just tell us that you've addressed
Okay.
the things, because those I think we can talk about.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
things that were needed to be followed up on do not are not security risks to talk about publicly. Okay, all right. So that brings us to department budget outlooks. I think we've hit on that for everybody, every department now, so we're good there. And then mapping radio system and squad updates. The squad thing is in there. If has any questions?
And I guess in addition to that, I'm hoping that the 2 squads that have been sitting out there waiting to be
Put
put
their equipment
together
on.
will be done by the end of this month or early next month. What we're waiting on, what we've been waiting on is the radios for them. All the other equipment is here.
So are we to the point yet where we could potentially, when we retire vehicles, that they're new enough that the equipment, some of the equipment can be transferred and we don't have to buy all brand new equipment every single time we get a new car?
So that's a good question.
Because how much does it cost to outfit a ballpark?
Ballpark, 80,000.
No, not
Purchasing.
not for the car,
purchasing,
just for
not
the
car
outfitting.
itself.
Yeah, just for the outfitting of the car.
40.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like, because I realized we stopped doing it because we were putting really old equipment. And I get that, but now we're trying to be much better, and our oldest vehicle is from the backups are 2016 and 17, but when we start retiring some of the 2018s, maybe there's equipment that can be reused and we don't have to buy every single piece.
So we're still cycling out old equipment. We're getting close to the end of that. Well, I guess where I look at it is how the $1 million question is, how far do we run this? Because we're going to be, when we start taking this new equipment out of service, or the vehicle it's in out of service, you're going to be looking at probably 5 to 6 years of service life. So now your radios are 5 to 6 years old.
But what
Your
about
computers are 5 to 6 years
Right,
old.
but what about the other stuff like the cage and the things that are not, or they just get so beat up by people, or?
It's not so much that they get beat up. It's that
The car changes
car
size,
changes.
like the engineers
Yes.
make it 2 inches shorter.
they make retrofit kits, and to some extent that's a viable option. The other thing is too that, like, what I hear from our upfitter is that they make the cage retrofit, but by the time they
It
never
spends the
never
hours.
perfectly work, and by the time they get done making it work,
You've spent
their
as
labor
much as-
cost is at
I'm
its
just,
age.
I'm just thinking that if there's a way that we can not have to outfit them with equipment every time, that's $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 that we can put into courthouse or, other things, or
I think
or salary for another person or whatever,
I think certain pieces of equipment are, because we've been upgrading all of our radars as we go along. A radar can probably last a couple of vehicles. Stuff like that.
I mean, I don't want to jerry rig things together.
Yeah,
I'm not
yep.
asking that we start duct taping
So-
the cage shut and things like that, but if there are areas where we can do that and reuse things instead of just dumping it when we're done,
And
with the car.
I think certain pieces of equipment
So maybe we
that's
just-
reasonable to say, we
Right.
can run this for 2 car cycles.
So maybe if we come up with a list, like a policy that says this is a list of things that we will try to recycle, this is a list of things that we will not try, like come up with an actual, so that you guys all know. And when we're budgeting, we kind of know, maybe we don't have to ask for quite so much for outfitting. Okay, enough said. Anyone else have comments on that? Okay. All right, so does that, oops, just got another wrong meeting. Does that bring us to future agenda items? Anybody have any? We seem to always, we need to go back to ordinance 89.7. Again, the difficulty in scheduling an interview proved true again with this committee. So I do think it's time to really work on that. Maybe we need to schedule a separate meeting. I hate to do that. But it does need to get done. So, if we had another meeting like this, it would be okay because it was a lighter meeting, but our meetings don't tend to be light very often. So that needs to come back. And I don't know if there's anything else other than I think we'll continue to try to work out a plan with security. We'll just keep muddling through that. I think maybe we should put that on as a separate agenda item. Maybe quarterly, for sure, if not more often. All right, so that means that the next thing is adjournment. So I will not be here for the October meeting. So Bob, are you going to be there to run that meeting?
Yes, I should be.
Okay. And is anyone else not going to be able to be at the October meeting to make sure we have quorum? Okay. So with that, it's time to adjourn. 10:05. That's not bad.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
Opposed?
you.
Thanks, everyone.